Alright, so this is the HSK Pro 4K, and it's a really tiny mouse that weighs 29 grams. I've never felt anything like this mouse before. The final mouse isn't even close in terms of weight and feel. This mouse weighs 17 grams less than the small final mouse. That's absolutely crazy, and they did this without having to remove basic features of the mouse, like a scroll wheel or side buttons. And even though it's tiny, it's packing some pretty big specs. I'll go ahead and throw them all up on the screen, but the main ones to take note of are the 3395 sensor, 4000 Hz polling rate, and the weight being only 29 grams. It comes in several color options, as you can see on their website. G-Wolf sent out the gray and red for review. I didn't pay for these mice, but that doesn't matter. I always tell the truth in my reviews because a dishonest review is worth about as much as a turd on a hot summer day. Now, in typical G-Wolf fashion, you get everything you could ever hope for inside this box, which is 2 extra set of PTFE feet, an extra battery, and a battery tester. You also get some really nice grip tape and 2 cables. Both are micro USB, and one is a shorter rubber cable, and the other is a much nicer, longer paracorded cable. There's also this small blue plastic bar thing that you can use to turn your mouse on or off. You even get some cologne inside the box, which undoubtedly makes this the best smelling unboxing you're ever gonna have. So for this mouse, I wanted to spend more time testing it than normal for a few different reasons. Firstly, because it's such a small mouse and I knew it would take more time to adjust to compared to most of the mice I've reviewed. And in my several hours of testing, I had 0 issues with the wireless performance dropping in or out. The connection's been completely stable. I've had 0 issues with the sensor on either of my copies. They've both performed flawlessly the entire time. Sadly, the battery life is not as impressive. You're gonna need to charge this mouse every day to every other day, depending on how much you use it. Now, it really would have been nice if this mouse was packing more battery life, but it's a trade-off you make for that extreme low weight and the 4000 Hz polling rate. A lot of people just run 1000 Hz for the extra battery life. They don't really seem to mind the trade-off. I recently had a poll on Twitter to see if people thought 4000 Hz was overrated, and the majority of people said it was. But at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to your PC setup, your monitor's refresh rate, and of course, your personal preference. The other reason I wanted to have a lot of time on it was because some HSK Pros were actually catching on fire. I'm guessing you guys heard about this because there was a lot of drama online for a while. But G-Wolf says they got rid of that supplier and this shouldn't be happening anymore. All I can really speak to is the 2 copies that I have, and I haven't had any issues with burning or blowing up or anything crazy like that. I put the most playtime on my red copy and I charged it as much as I could. I would leave it plugged in throughout the day and it never caught fire or burned up in any visible way. But I wanted to take it apart after putting several hours on it and check the battery out to make sure. And as you can see, it looks great with no burn marks of any sort. The shape here is very unique. The back sticks up pretty high compared to the front end. There's a pretty steep drop off by the time you get to the front of the buttons, and I think this has to be the lowest button height I've used on any mouse. Now this shape only works for fingertip grip. There's no way in hell you're gonna be able to claw grip it or palm grip it, so don't even try. When I fingertip, I don't lock my fingers on the mouse like this and adjust with my wrist. I pull the mouse down into my palm with my fingers, although the other style works perfectly fine here too. But this mouse has to have the biggest range of motion I've ever seen for fingertip grip. Being so short in length and height, it really caters to true fingertip grip, and it gives you so much more freedom while moving around and making adjustments while aiming. It really gives that pencil feeling of control because this mouse puts your thumb and index finger closer together than any other mouse I've ever used. And I've used a lot of mice. The sides here are relatively straight, but the bottom flares out at the back of the mouse and tapers in towards the front, and the top flares out in the front of the mouse but tapers out in the back. There's no coating on this one, it's just a matte textured finish, and for me it's really slick. I actually had a lot of trouble controlling this mouse until I put the grip tape on, but once I did that I had a lot more control over the mouse and it felt great. The grip tape is very grippy, it's pretty thin and it's lightweight. I get 29 grams on my scale without the grip tape, and it actually stays at 29 when I put the tape on, and those are just insane numbers. It really makes something like the super light feel like an actual brick. For being only 29 grams, the build quality is pretty good. My red copy does have a bit of side flex and I can feel it sometimes while I'm gaming or just in regular use. Now it's not the worst movement I've seen, but with this mouse being so small, it is a little annoying in use. Luckily on my gray copy, this isn't an issue at all and it feels much better when there's no flex. The buttons are excellent on both of my copies. Buttons 1 and 2 aren't super sharp like the clicks on my Atlantis Mini, but they still feel good. They're really light, which is exactly what you want when using a really lightweight mouse. Heavy clicks on a light mouse just tend to mess with my aim, but that's not a problem here. There's more pre-travel than I like, but it doesn't take too much from the overall click feel. As far as button wobble is concerned, there is a ton, but I haven't felt it in game at all, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. The side buttons are very light and crispy, however they definitely take some time to adjust to that placement. Personally, I find it easier to just roll my thumb up and press them versus lifting it to engage the side buttons. The scroll wheel here is tiny, but I love it. It's made of a very grippy rubber and it sits super low on the mouse. You can easily fill each step for games like Counter-Strike, and it's easy to spam as you're ping in games like Apex. It has a nice tactile feel to it while browsing the web, and I was really surprised by how good the scroll wheel and all of the buttons feel on such a lightweight mouse. The bottom of the mouse is pretty basic here. You've got two PTFE feet, which are on the controlled side. They're well rounded and smooth. We've also got the power switch, which is pretty hard to get to with just your finger. So you probably want to hang on to that little plastic blue bar. It just makes it easier to turn the mouse on and off. Using this mouse in game feels absolutely amazing. It's so lightweight, you feel like there's practically nothing in your hand. Now I think 180 is a lot for a tiny mouse, and it's hard to say if this one's worth that much. But at the same time, there's no other mice out there that are sub 30 grams and wireless with functioning side buttons and a scroll wheel too. The M2K is a good mouse, but the lack of side buttons for me is a bit of a deal breaker. And when I had that mouse, I didn't really feel like I was using an actual mouse. It felt like some weird prototype and the cable kind of sucked on it, if I'm honest. I tried it out for about a day and then I returned it. And in my opinion, this mouse is the better option over the M2K, and I would recommend it all day over that mouse. Not to mention it's way cheaper. This mouse has a ton of potential for people who love Fingertip, or for people who just have smaller hands and have trouble controlling medium to larger sized mice, but you still get all the features of a full-size mouse and crazy specs to go with it. So that's all I've got for this one, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time.